All right, we'll get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our last dinner with the devs of the year. Man, it flew by. So we're talking about community management and games and the games industry. Thank you so much for joining us. We have a wonderful panel here to talk to you, to answer your questions. So let's get started with some housekeeping. First, our senior director of marketing, Jill. She's our live chat moderator. So thank you, Jill, for jumping in. Adam Kuta, our community marketing specialist, is already managing some of the questions on our Discord. So thank you so much for our Discord members for continuing to be involved. This is about you guys. So thank you for wanting to be a part of that. Any other questions that you have, if you're in our Discord, if you're watching it on our Discord, or if you're on YouTube, or following through Facebook or Twitch or whatever, make sure you put your questions and comments in the live chat so we can make sure we share that. And then the question that I like for our panelists to think about whenever we get to the very end, we have, what is one thing that you've learned about community management that you wish you knew when you started? So don't answer that now. We're going to think about it, let it kind of mold over your minds as this hour conversation continues. But with that being said, let's introduce our panel. So first up, we'll have AtomBombBody.
Hello. My name's AtomBombBody. I am the community manager for Live. I've also started off as a content creator, so that's sort of where I got my start. I was actually a Live partner, making a lot of stuff for them there. And then eventually they were hiring community management positions, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try, and I made it. So it's been a fantastic and very interesting journey to get to where I am today. But I would say probably one of the newest members on the team, I suppose.
Good stuff. Thank you. And we'll go with Lauren.
Hi. So I'm Lauren Koester. I am I guess technically the senior director of marketing for ForeVR Games, but primarily that means that I oversee basically all of our marketing, all of our user acquisition, all of our community, and all of our support. So there's quite a kind of big thing that falls under. I was thinking about it this morning. I've never actually technically been a community manager from a day-to-day perspective. But in my background and my history, etc., I've built a ton of communities around, whether it's developers or consumers or players. So I'm excited to kind of chat about my experience and also ForeVR Games experience as well.
Good stuff. Thank you, Lauren. And Adam.
Hey everybody, I'm Adam Kuta, or you may recognize me as Kuta Kuma. I am the community marketing specialist at Schell Games. So I'm super involved on Discord, on social media, and all of our original IP branding things. That's me.
Good stuff. So thank you, everybody. I'm super excited to talk about this. And they always try Restream. So we use Restream, and for some reason, they always want to, put a group of people together. So I like the diagonal effect. So we're going to make sure that happens. So what I would like to start this conversation with is how you guys got drawn to building a community, or why you thought the community is so important to you. Let's start with, I'll put Adam on the spot first since we're on the same team.
Yeah, I mean, my background, like in education, academic background, was definitely focused on writing. And I started off, right after school, like working with like customer service and stuff. And just kind of my career path really kept pushing me towards community. I really was drawn to like social media and like just the idea of connecting with people. I did a work study position while I was at university, and it was basically me and my boss, and we were managing like the internal community for our college. And that was kind of my first taste at like, okay, cool. Like we're like setting up events and we're like hosting contests and we're like monitoring posts and like making sure people are communicating and like using this platform. And I was like, this is really cool. And then I never really thought that that would tie into where I would be going. I always thought I'd be going more writing focused. And then just each job that I had after that kept pushing me more towards like, no, like think of the cool community things you could do. And I was like, And so then, yeah, I don't know. I did a lot of like consumer insight stuff. So like analyzing data and things, and was like, wow, like how can we apply that towards like actual like community initiatives? And I don't know, just I feel like that's kind of where my path was just generally forcing me to go. Yeah, as if I don't know, like as if I don't like it, but I do. I love it. So that's like I feel like it just is a natural fit for me. I don't know if that answers the question.
It totally does. Thank you, Adam. How about you, Lauren?
Yeah, I mean, so my talk about completely different college degrees. I actually went to school to be a sports reporter. I was going to be Lauren Koester, reporting live from the sidelines of whatever sports team. But yeah, it just kind of in like the natural progression of life, and you know the fact that there's A, not a ton of women in that field, and also B, not a ton of jobs in that field. I kind of pivoted in my career more into kind of like promotions and advertising. Just kind of a big old marketing umbrella. So it's interesting, like, you know, when I do kind of the like, you know, how did you get here, or like the kind of conversations about like what brought me to the role that I'm in currently. It's interesting in the fact that I tend to kind of be in a role, find something that I'm super passionate about, and then kind of grow my skill set. So while a lot of this stuff is not something that I'm necessarily like, I didn't go to school for, you know, marketing and VR. A lot of this is stuff that I've kind of been able to just be in the right role at the right time, wear all the hats, and kind of pick up different things. So in terms of kind of what draws me to community, I mean, obviously, you know, if I put kind of the marketing hat on, having a solid community and having a user base that is, you know, bringing in new users and sharing your game with other people is, A, it doesn't cost anything, and B, it's a great way to get really, you know, really engaged people, because ultimately, like, you know, if I find a game and I like it, you know, yeah, I'll play it. But if I find a game, I like it, and then I share it with my friend, and my friend likes it, and the other friend likes it, like, we're going to play it a lot more. So there's just kind of a, you know, this inherent kind of natural community engagement that just suits advertising and marketing really well. So it's something that I've kind of done in different roles, whether, I mean, you know, many moons ago, I was working at Unity, and I was working on like an ads product, and I was kind of building a community out of indie devs. So it's just kind of, it's a natural, like, kind of empowering, especially when you're, I feel like it resonates really well with small teams, but especially when you're in a role where you don't have, for example, a huge social team or a huge, you know, community team or a huge whatever. Your community and your players can actually be marketers on your behalf and be kind of that almost first line of defense, even in a support perspective. So I try to plan and build in a lot of these programs that just make it easy to like empower our players. So it's kind of a, you know, community is always awesome and it's fun to talk to people. But I definitely kind of pivoted into it from a more strategic perspective.
Very cool. So talk about perspectives. Yeah, AtomBombBody, your perspective is kind of different too. So not only the, you know, tool that you're the the community manager of, but how you kind of fell into that. So, you know, feel free to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I started off, you know, doing content creation. I did the whole typical, you know, variety streamer desktop thing. And then eventually, when Half-Life Alyx came out, I was like, I had my original HTC Vive that sadly had been in a box for a long time. It had been like touched, and then like, oh, cool, there wasn't really anything else out. And then, you know, sadly,
not
put away for
uncommon
a while.
with a lot of headsets. So that's not on you.
But then, so Half-Life Alyx came out, and I was always a huge Half-Life fan. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I have to figure out a way to stream this. And at the time, there were some YouTube videos out there, but maybe some of them were outdated because the technology was growing so fast. So I had to kind of Frankenstein different ideas from different creators together into something that actually worked. And once I streamed Half-Life Alyx, that was pretty much it. I was like, you know what? I think I want to narrow down my focus on starting to create content around VR. But then I figured, you know what? If I'm struggling with figuring out how to stream and record this stuff, I'm sure I'm not the only one. So instead of I focus on games and stuff too, of course, but I wanted to have a unique spin on like helping other content creators be able to create VR content, if that makes sense. So more tutorial based on how to actually do the things. And then throughout that journey, that's how I found Live. And I was like, oh, what is this mixed reality thing? Like, this is super cool. So then learning that and being able to showcase VR in a way that's different from just your traditional first person view was eye-opening to me. And so I was like, make tutorials about that. And then, eventually it's interesting because I started as a content creator, sort of growing a sense of how to market, but on a smaller scale, right? It's through myself, how to market myself as a brand, how to use various social medias to raise awareness for a thing, but the thing was just me at the time. So I will say that, moving on to working with Live has just kind of expanded what I wanted to do initially is to help content creators and also developers as well to showcase their games in super cool ways. But I get to do everything that I've wanted, but on a bigger scale and with a team, which is so much nicer than working by yourself, because now you've got, all that support and everyone's kind of on the same page. So yeah, it is kind of interesting how I think so many content creators assume like, oh, I only have to be a YouTuber or Twitch streamer or whatever for the rest of your career, which is fine if you want to, but there's also other avenues that you may not have considered, like community management, social media management, getting into marketing for maybe some of these big game companies that you've always loved and aspired to be a part of. So yeah, I think we're starting to see more of it now, especially that, content creators are sort of starting to be a pretty big marketing tool. So I will say too, don't sell yourself short. If you do make YouTube videos and Twitch streams and think that's all you can ever do, if you want to do it, that's fine. But you can expand too if you'd like. There's so many options available to our skill sets.
Oh yeah, so many options and so many ways that you can, work with, developers and studios or, other creators, right? So there's so much stuff that you can do to, be creative with getting yourself out there, doing games and, making it a whole career. So definitely something for all those, budding content creators to think about. So, based on that, I want to start digging into a couple of things. So for ForeVR Games, Lauren, you kind of talked about how you fell into community management and marketing overall as more strategic. How does ForeVR Games, or what aspects of community for ForeVR Games do you feel is really important?
Sure. I mean, honestly, the biggest thing that we found early on for Forever Bowl in particular is when we launched our first time user experience. I think we assumed a lot. We're very lucky in terms of our executive and the people on the team. We've all launched games before on other platforms. There's not. So there's a ton of knowledge there. But I think one of the decisions that we made when we launched Bowl is we felt like the game was super intuitive, and we didn't really do a ton of like the we didn't do a ton of like the informational, like, just in time, like first time user experiences, or like, if you play the game, you notice you kind of have that first tutorial. And then there's a lot of things kind of that you're kind of, we rely on like a level of kind of curiosity and kind of just understanding of VR. So one of the things that was a really easy kind of first pass on community in that sense is we had people, if someone jumped into Discord and was like, hey, I'm having a hard time throwing the ball, or it's not going where I think it should, we immediately saw players who were just like, yeah, do you want me to jump into a game with you? So that was kind of the first, it's really funny because we, when we first launched, whenever we got, a negative review or really any sort of feedback about the game, we were like, this is awesome. We have people that on our team that want to play with you. So like if you're having trouble or you want to give us feedback, like we'd love to get you into the game with one of our, we said like in-game pros, which is really just like one of our devs. But they're very professional. We would, but that was the goal is we wanted this person to be kind of like our kind of go-to almost, almost kind of in that community aspect, but we found that the community was doing that themselves. So we have a couple of players who, I have a couple of folks. We actually we think about this like super engaged community aspect as almost like a persona within our player base. And one of those kind of attributes to that persona is super involved in community. And we found we have easily a dozen. They're not mods, but they're just as empowered in the sense that like they reach out to us and ping us and say, hey, saw this, seems like you guys should address it. So they're kind of like our backup outside of the staff in terms of like Discord and that sort of thing. But yeah, really the biggest thing I would say is by giving them FAQs and information and kind of making those resources available, then they started to kind of empower themselves and then start to be their own support. So people will jump in and ask questions. And then, before I can even respond, a player has responded and said, hey, like, let me jump into a game with you, or have you tried this ball and that sort of thing. So our biggest thing was just empowering them with as much information as possible. So that if they wanted to seek that information, they had a really like easy kind of path to do it. So that was probably the thing that drove the most success, at least early on, with our community.
Yeah, no, that's great, and definitely fantastic reasons why to build a community. I know, I think Adam, I have you last on this, but you could talk a lot on that as well with Until You Fall and some of the new stuff with I Expect You to Die. But before we get to that, with AtomBombBody, since you kind of touched on all the different ways that you have been in community management, why is with your different perspectives, why is community management so important to you in the gaming industry?
Oh gosh. Well, I feel like if, at least in Liv's particular instance, if we didn't have a community, Liv wouldn't be a thing, because it's very community based. We have to have creators who want to use our tools in turn to show developers too that, hey, people actually want to, create these really cool footage, using Liv. So it's a very, kind of a cycle, bit of an experience, but it's really cool too because, there's a lot of intricacies when it comes to VR and a lot that can go wrong. So we have, and right now we currently have like besides our devs who are always super helpful in the Discord, we have like one dedicated support person, but we also have, particular community members who've just been with Liv for years. So they also know the ins and outs, and our Discord in particular is used a lot for support because we get all different levels of people, whether they're new to content creation or they want to do something super advanced, like add a tracker to a moving camera. And sometimes it gets a little scary even for me. And I'm like, oh no, but it's so nice to be able to see people helping each other out in those ways. So even if it's something that I may not be able to answer because it's kind of too technical or maybe above and beyond my creativity level, because I've just never done something like that before, usually somebody has. And so it's nice to be like, oh yeah, just add this tracker. And if you set this to 45 degrees and you put this back here and you buy these very specific, lights for your square footage. And I'm like, man, these people, it makes me so happy and so proud to see the knowledge that our community has, just to be able to answer a lot of these questions. So it does, and it makes things easier too, kind of as Lauren was mentioning, so you don't have to feel like you have to have all the answers all the time, because your community is also backup. They've either experienced it or they've experimented or what have you. So it's really nice. So, yeah, we wouldn't be a thing, honestly, I don't think, without our community.
No, yeah, seriously. So Adam, why you can touch on all those points, plus why you think players search for different places where communities can form, such as Reddit's, Discords, etc. But feel free to touch on whatever else Lauren and AtomBombBody have brought up.
I mean, I think they definitely brought up awesome and points that I agree with completely. I think the community being like a first line of defense for support and stuff. I think that's such a obvious reason why people even search for communities to begin with. That you're looking for I wonder if people have tried this, or does anybody know how to do this? I think that that's definitely that's definitely a reason why you would sequence something out. But I think for us, for Schell, one of the things that we do with Until You Fall is we turn that into a multiplayer experience. So it's a single player game, but you want to play it or experience it with somebody else. So we have challenges and stuff. So you're not only going to look for other people who like this experience that you're enjoying, but then you get to turn it into something that you can enjoy with other people who already enjoy it. And I think for VR specifically, it's still somewhat pretty niche. So you're looking for those communities too, because maybe your friends locally don't have VR, or maybe you don't know somebody who is playing the games that you're doing. So turning to online communities is a great way to share that passion with people who share your passion.
Yeah, no, 100%. So thank you all for your different perspectives. Now we have a lot of questions. So before we continue moving on, and what I would like to ask you, let's hear from some people tuning into the stream. So from Orchid Rose, and feel free, whoever wants to jump in first, feel free to do so. Orchid Rose asks, "Oh, what is your favorite part of managing communities?"
The friends you make along the way.
Aww. That's a nice one.
It is. Yeah. It's a wholesome answer, but it's so true.
I also just like seeing, the creative stuff people come up with, whether it's going to be, again, for Live specific instances, it's I don't know how you even made this thing. I can't wrap my brain around it. But even for, certain games, it's how did you get to this score? I don't understand how this is possible. I mean, it has to be possible, but I don't know. It's always finding things that are unexpected, and I think that's kind of an exciting part of our jobs, is we never know, what we're going to go in and see the next day. Well, hopefully it's something good. But whether it's a really interesting piece of feedback where you're oh, I never thought of adding that before, someone write that down, that's going to be a good thing for later. Just being able to understand different perspectives from people. And it just, I don't know, I love the social aspect of, we're all different. We all have, like I said, different thoughts about things. And so being able to sort of, granted, we can't always act on everything, but at least being able to hear the ideas and maybe even put it down the pipeline potentially, no guarantees, no promises, is really nice. And then when we do, and then people are yes, they did the thing that I suggested, that's a nice feeling when we can do it.
Right.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah.
So it's funny. We actually we have a feedback channel in both of our games Discords. So we have separate Discords for Forever Darts, which launches tomorrow, and Forever Bowl, which is already out. So, but no. So we have channels that are dedicated to feature requests, hall requests, ball requests. It's actually it's really interesting. The idea of using the community for feedback is a little bit of a double-edged sword, because you tend to get your most engaged players, which is great, but that's not always the totality of the player base. And one thing that we've found that's been interesting is specifically building a community because we're Quest only. So I would say the user, the Quest user in particular, is kind of nuanced. They're more like a mobile gamer than they are a true gamer. So for some of them, Discord, for example, is that they're I don't know what this is, or it's for gamers. I don't think it's for me. So it's really interesting. one of the things that we've leveraged our feedback from the community specifically is we actually had like many small gaming teams, when I joined, I was actually the first, female hire, first female executive hire for ForeVR Games, because we've been growing a ton. And one of the things that when I joined, I just took a look at the game and I was like, you know what, I feel like we could be doing more with female content. Like we're, in terms of our, our percentage, of, like where we stack against other sports games and that sort of thing, like we were doing pretty well. So I was like, I feel like this is something where we have an opportunity here to really make sure that we're getting kind of like a female lens on things outside of just me. So it's interesting. We actually used our community to kind of use them as a source for ball ideas. So we actually had a survey and asked a little bit of demographic information, and then specifically looked through and we're like, what are the women players asking for? Like, what are they looking for in terms of content? And kind of the, the funny, like if we're gonna, put a checkbox on it, is we have actually increased our the percentage of women in our game. I think we've increased it even like 4% since we added in this new content. So we were literally able to do that based on feedback from the player base, so that we could kind of narrow our thoughts on things. So that idea of like surveying and getting feedback from your community, it's basically like the first line before you get a 1-star or a 5-star review sometimes. So it can be very powerful. Community can also sometimes trigger 1-star reviews depending on their experience. But that's a different can of worms. But from a like a, getting content, it can be super powerful.
Very cool. If no one else has anything to add to that, we will move on. So Lauren, you mentioned Discord, and so Mako asks, I'm curious to know how the advent of Discord has affected community management and gaming. So anyone, you are all involved in Discord. So whoever wants to start off with this, Lauren, you kind of kicked it off, but if anybody else wants to talk about it.
So I can a little bit, because I forgot to actually mention in my bio. So I, prior to moving into the VR space, kind of my last, non-metaverse role was in the real world. I led marketing for Mixer when Ninja came over from Twitch to Mixer, and then that product got shut down. But I didn't do that personally. I was just marketing.
Yeah, star in there right now.
Sorry, but no. So it's interesting because that was probably the first time that I really looked at Discord in terms of building out communities, and how people are using Discord to build communities. Previously, I was more of like I had a couple of Discords with my friends where if we were going to jump in, we'd play together. Or I was like kind of, I would get thrown into different Discords because of someone I subscribed to on Patreon for like an artist or something like that. So like I was kind of being put in it, but it wasn't until Mixer that I really kind of saw how we used it to engage like the partner community, and how we used it to, and then how each of the streamers was using Discord to like engage their own communities. So it's really funny, kind of to your point previously, the idea of moving from content creator to like almost marketer. I feel like that's such a natural progression because of using like, as a content creator, you have a Discord, you're already promoting yourself, you're already engaging your own community. So now it's just a matter of doing that for something that isn't you. So it's really funny, that kind of natural progression. But Discord in particular, that was kind of my first experience with it. But I mean, it's the first time we've had one place for people to go. The only kind of flag is what I was kind of alluding to previously, which is you don't really get, it definitely is for gamers, and it has that perception. So for users who, for example, just get their Quest and maybe they don't consider themselves gamers, but they're interested and they want to learn, like they can find it a little unwieldy because it does come off as a very gamer focused product. So
I think that's something we forget sometimes too, is how, I don't want to call it a stigma exactly, but how much it is that like people, like people on the outside, like non-gamer hardcore people think, yeah, Discord's just for gamers. And, sometimes we put so much effort into Discord, which is good, but, also having to consider the more casual users that aren't going to be, maybe they just like your game, maybe they just like your product, but they don't necessarily need to be hardcore, like knowing everything that the game is doing 24/7. So it's like, that's why it's very important to have other channels too, or even, some sort of like a update pop-up, some other way that people can get information on your game other than just like Discord, or even, I guess, arguably some social medias, because maybe they like the game, but they don't like you enough to follow on social medias.
They don't want to hear what I have to say all the time.
Yeah, they just want to keep playing the thing and seeing all the updates. So, that's definitely a good point to consider.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff. Let's see. Madison Morrison asks, what do you think is the main key on building a community? And let's start with Adam here.
Yeah, I think my go-to answer is always just listening. I think building communities is all about letting them be the communities, letting them grow naturally is how they do. And I think the key of that is listening to generally speaking, most communities know what they want or think they know what they want, and they will be, more than happy to tell you. And I think that if you can listen to that and really dig into what they're actually saying and cater to that, I think that that's how you continue to build and grow and foster good communities. So you see how they're interacting with each other, that's setting the tone. You see what they're talking about, what their focuses are, what they're engaging in, what they like, and that can continue how to keep building it in the future. If you might think that they're super aggressive, competitive and stuff, but then they all actually turn out to be like super helpful and cooperative or something, and then that shifts your entire focus completely. So listening for sure is 100% my answer for the key on building a community.
Yeah, I think you touched on a really important point in the sense of you can't tell a community what they're going to be. They'll figure it out on their own. And that's the other, that's more of a life lesson, but I feel like that's definitely something, especially with community management, is like some of the stuff that you think is the best idea ever is not going to land, and that's okay. So like there's definitely things where I think my key kind of takeaway in terms of like if I was helping a dev set up their new community, or if I was helping someone set up their community, you want to put guardrails in place around like moderation and around things that are like you want to make sure it's a positive and like a helpful experience. So you definitely want to have you want to throw your bots in there. You want to have you want to have people that are kind of on there and looking at and making sure that like it is a positive experience. But in terms of like actually setting like this channel is for this or this channel is for this, like you got to realize that like people are going to chat where they want to chat. People are like, you can tell people a billion times. This is actually the reason internally everyone was like, well, why aren't we just doing one big ForeVR Games Discord? And I'm like, guys, I can't get our players to chat in the right channels within one own game Discord. Like there's no way that I'm going to get people to chat about darts in the right channel and then chat about bowl in the right channel. I'm like, there's no way that's happening. So, I mean, that's just a learning is like, you can put all these structures in place and you can put all these things in place to funnel people or get them into the, like, oh, it's a super easy user flow. It's not, they don't get it. They just want to ask a question or they just want to talk and they're going to do it in whatever channel they launch into. I mean, it's, and you know what, that's fine because it's about the community, right? Like this is a tool for them, not a tool for us. So I think that idea of like kind of changing and iterating on your original plans of like what you think the community should be is just as important as like setting that kind of early, like, how do I set up?
Mm-hmm. I feel like too, as long as like a lot of people just want to be heard. So even if it's an idea that like this is just not going to be possible because it's like either technology doesn't exist for this or like it's the strangest idea you've ever heard, as long as they feel like you have received their feedback and it's like, hey, this is a really interesting idea. I don't know if we would be able to implement it, but I'm going to keep an eye. They just want that recognition of knowing that somebody has listened to them, even if you just can't do the thing, whatever, because this is, not going to be possible. We're not going to be able to implement every single thing. It'd be chaotic. And I don't know what kind of monster that would turn into, but I think that's another important aspect is, even again, if you think it is the dumbest idea ever that you have ever heard, just letting the other person know that they've been listened to, that they've been heard, especially by a member of that team. Because then it's like, okay, it's not just, of course, having community feedback to other community members is nice, but most people kind of want somebody either on the dev team or on marketing to be like, I see you and I hear either your complaint or your idea or your feedback. And then, granted, if it goes further, then you could take steps after, depending on how pushy they're being. But for the most part, just acknowledging them and their ideas is, makes most people happy enough.
Anecdotally, we had a player who was reporting a bug, and at the time that they reported it, we were already working on the fix. But they reported it, and then we had an update. And from their perspective, nobody acknowledged their bug report in Discord, and nobody, and then we had an update, and we didn't address that bug that they reported. And that was a 5-star review that turned into a 1-star review, because they're like, what the heck? Like, I'm having this bug, and I've reached out to this player actually since and been like, hey, here's the timeline of when it's going out, and even been like, hey, the bug's fixed. I would love for you to jump back in the game, but it was enough of a bad experience for them that they just they didn't get the validation. And then on top of that, just they didn't get the right communication. So it can be empowering, and it can also be a really easy detractor, unfortunately.
No, good call. Thank you for adding that point to it. Now, I think it was AtomBombBody who talked about the difference in VR and just streaming, playing the games, etc. So Martin C had an interesting question I would like for you to start with. Do you find it more challenging or different to manage VR communities compared to regular games?
I would say it's been easier to manage Liv's socials compared to my own, because it's a lot easier to market something because when it's just my stuff, it's like, oh, this sucks. This is terrible. No one's going to like it. But when you're trying to, promote something as a team, you're proud of that work because it's not all something that just you made. So it's like, look at this cool stuff that everybody made. I want to get this out there versus mine where I'm like, maybe this isn't the best piece of thing. I'll just not post it today, and it does help too that, Liv is a much higher and, had the starving artist content creation money. So having that incentive as well helps a lot. But personally, I'm sure it might be different for others. I find it, easier to promote, but I guess also more challenging because on that end too, there's just so many more users and it's such a bigger community to manage when it comes to Liv. So there's a lot more, just a lot more feedback coming in, a lot more support. And because I'm representing a company versus just myself, things that I might say personally to a person would not go over well to, representing Liv as a community manager. So it's, I don't know if I would say one's easier or better or worse. It's just different. But I do definitely like, and maybe even prefer working on a team though. It's been very refreshing to know that other people have my back and that I'm not a crazy person most of the time. Well, that's maybe that it's debatable, but
a little crazy is always good.
Yeah,
Cool.
I mean that same on our side. Having a community, in one way or the other is super powerful. But also, the Discord in particular, and some of having, promoting a product, especially promoting a product you believe in, as opposed to a product that's something. And I think some of what Adam was mentioning, Adam versus Adam. I don't know. Some of what Adam, the nuclear element, was mentioning is we have like this kind of imposter syndrome when you're promoting yourself and when you're, you know, building a community yourself versus like promoting a game. It's definitely a lot easier when you're promoting a game. I mean, I'm personally the same way when it comes to like meeting people. Like if I'm meeting someone as like Lauren from ForeVR Games, I'm a lot less awkward than when I'm meeting someone as like Lauren the human who like has been speaking her whole life, but like somehow says weird things. One thing we've done to kind of solve for that is we have a voice as ForeVR Games. So we've kind of like, you know, look at the tone of our games. If you look at the tone of our art style and that sort of thing, they're very playful. We kind of think of ourselves as like the barfly, you know, who's always there. They're always just going to chat. They're going to, you know, say hi, whatever. Sometimes they're a little off color. Sometimes they're a little silly, but you know, it's that has made it really helpful so that, you know, especially when you're, when either I'm writing something or the team is writing something that's focused on the community, you can kind of put it through that lens of like, does this sound like us? And then it kind of takes your like immediate response of like someone being like, this game sucks. And you want to be like, well, you suck. Like, you don't like, would ForeVR Games say that? So it helps like put that, like, you know, because I mean, I'm sure you guys see this, like we are the front lines. So like in terms of customer complaints, you know, issues, bugs, anything, like sentiment in the community in general, like we see it first. And a lot of times we have to, you know, see things happening on the product and the engineering side and be like, that's going to be a problem in a month.
Or like, sometimes you've got fires to put out where it's like, all right, this thing released a lot of bugs. We're working on it, everybody. Like, it's okay.
Exactly.
Nobody panic, internally panicking.
So it's tough to not have that like personal response, but also it's kind of helpful to have this idea of like a voice, because I feel like it helps you kind of put into perspective the way that you speak to the community. And, you know, keeps you from angry tweeting.
It almost makes us like split personality in a way, because we're like, you know, us the individual, but then we are
100%.
you know, the company we represent. So it's a very interesting and sometimes challenging dynamic, because you have to take the personal out of it when you're representing, you know, your company. Otherwise that would, you know, I probably would have been fired a long time ago.
Oh man, I mean the things that our marketing team says internally versus putting out can be sometimes different, right?
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, like businesses can be terrible people. So it's a matter of, you know, translating what is right for the business to what is right for the community. And then also setting the expectations and setting that, I think, you know, to the point earlier about having, you know, feedback channels, it really helps kind of take the edge off because you're like, oh, awesome, we have a feedback channel. Like, please stop yelling at me on Twitter. Like, we have a feedback channel. Like, oh, you have an idea? Like, we have a feedback channel. Like, please go to the feedback channel. Please stop yelling at me. So, it helps.
I guess on that end too, though,
go ahead,
it can be hard. It can be hard to not. Oh, sorry.
You just call me Kuta
so
for now.
confusing.
It's good.
Like, I guess since we're around other community managers, I've wondered, like, it is hard to not take the, you know, negative comments personally as a person in sort of like a depressive way. You know what I mean? Like sometimes our first reaction is like anger, but sometimes you'll have like, oh, you'll post this update, you'll get like 10 that are like, wow, yeah, thank you. But then there's like those 2 people that are like, and then you're like, you know, what did I do? It's not you, but it's sometimes it's a really tough thing to, you know, manage your, you know, mental health around, like, it's not me, you know, it's just these 2 people. It's fine. Like they are allowed to have their opinions, you know, but it's sometimes it can be difficult to be like, is it because I like worded the post weird, or was like the graphic that I chose like strange or something? So I don't know. I just thought it's nice to bring stuff like that up around other community social media people, because I'm sure, you know, we see it like all the time where you just get like a sad comment and you know you shouldn't have been on Twitter at 7:00 at night or past work hours, and you happen to see that one, and then it ruins your night, and you're like, oh man, this is
honestly,
why do I do this to myself?
So segue, we are hiring a community manager at ForeVR Games.
Doesn't it sound so fun?
And I'm part of the reason that I'm very excited to bring someone into this role is it means that I can take some of our social media off my phone, because that, I will say, as someone who manages a community, having social media on your phone is very dangerous, because think of the great idea. First of all, you can I almost accidentally posted a photo of my dog in his raincoat onto our ForeVR Games Twitter.
I'm so scared that's gonna happen one day.
So there's that, and then the other thing is you just get that, like, you know, oh, there's something I need to look at, and then you're just like, I want to respond to this. Like, so that is definitely it's a temptation that exists as community manager.
It's hard to have an off switch sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah. It makes it hard to enjoy. Like, for me, it makes me hard to enjoy our games, because if I jump in, even if I'm in there taking photos for marketing purposes, like, people jump in and they're like, oh, it's Lauren. And I'm like, I'm working right now. Like, I can't actually play with you. So it's almost like I want to go like incognito and like be a normal person sometimes in the community, just to like actually experience the joyfulness of our games. I mean, we just don't allow it to affect, I think, our work. Like, I 100%, I'm sobbing constantly based on everything that you guys say to me on the internet. Because it is personally my decision to break the game or you know, change features. So
Your new mixer was your fault.
Again, I made that very clear.
I mean, Lauren broke.
I personally did shut it down. I was like, dear Mr. Mixer. It was my strategic decision. You can quote me on that.
You deserve to go. Yeah.
And bye.
Yeah. Okay. Bye. Adam, I interrupted you whenever you were talking, so please feel free to say whatever you're going to say.
No, I think I was just going to make a point about how like there's like the avenue of, you know, taking comments personally and stuff, but then there's also kind of like that weird middle ground of not only are you hearing the feedback from the community, but also from the dev team. So like we're like, as community managers, we're kind of like this weird like middle in between person between both sides of things. So it's like, I don't know, I guess I see that as a positive, because it's like, hey, like I get to be the voice of the customers for our internal teams, but then I get to be the voice of our, like, you know, designers and our devs to the community. So it's kind of like this like awesome like in between that can be stressful and can be, you know, hard to, you know, to divide, I guess, that, you know, not take personally. But I don't know, I kind of like having that in between, because it's kind of like a like direct from me to you, or, you know, kind of thing. And I don't know, that's exciting for me.
It's empowering. It makes you feel special.
Yeah.
I will say, I get DMs and mentions, and they're like, as the community manager of ForeVR Games, and I'm like, oh, that's cute. I do so much more. Yeah, that's what I do.
It's so funny that you mentioned that, though, because we are basically kind of like the middle person between the devs and community, because a lot of times they'll be like, all right, we push an update where shaders are improved and colliders and blah blah blah, and I'm like, okay, what does this actually mean to the people? Like, tell me this in a way.
Notes. Oh my god, I literally one time was sent as we were like transitioning and bringing on people, someone sent me just a list of Jira tickets before we had an update, and I was like this means nothing to me. Like, I mean, sure, there's like 3 things on here, but I feel like we did more. Like, so yeah, it's like that mean? Kind of, but also translating like what's important. Like, you know, I'll be going through and someone will be like, hey, you know, oh, we updated this thing, and I'm like, literally no one has ever asked. A fun example is we have a little robot in our game that beams down the scoreboard, and his name is NomoBot, and he's named after our CTO, and but he's also the name of our bot in our discords, and he, you know, like I don't think we ever have said, oh, he's NomoBot, but we put in release notes that now each hall has its own like matching NomoBot. So like in Brooklyn, he's like hipster, but literally everyone was like, what's a NomoBot? And I was like, you guys, this is all over Discord, this is all over, they're like, where's NomoBot, who's NomoBot? So that's the sort of thing where you're like, we were like, oh, well, this is an update, but I guess nobody knows what we're talking about. So yeah, translating things to community, and then backwards of I personally like to, sometimes I have to be like, get out of our Discord when some of our devs are in there, because they'll rat hole with a player, and then that's the one issue Like it's very tough to like objectively look at your community and their asks and prioritize them, especially because especially in a community, the squeaky wheel tends to get the grease. So like you get someone who's just like constantly agging you, and you're like, okay, that's the most important thing that's ever happened. Whereas it's like, is it, or is just one person asking about it a lot? So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and to your point about that, it's again that thing about Discord or building the communities. Whenever it's the most active people, they'll say that one thing that's nagging them. But it's like, well, is it really nagging everybody, or is it just nagging this group of people? Yeah.
Well, and
I
it's
don't
also
like this color purple here.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's a whole other. But no, it's also the yeah, that's like. But from actually like translating and providing what's value, but also, if you only look to the other kind of flip side is communities are fantastic and amazing, but if you only look to your community for feedback, your feedback's going to be super skewed. So we're actually in darts, we have a player survey that's up in the lobby that someone can launch. Because previously for Bowl, we've done them where we've promoted them on Discord or on social. But we realize of the actual data points that we're getting, they're very skewed towards this like super core player. There is a woman in our Discord that plays Forever Bowl for 12 hours a day on average.
Wow.
Her feedback is super valid because obviously she plays the game constantly, but also like that's not every user. So it's kind of balancing that, like almost like looking at like holistic, what is your community versus like what's your online community. And that's why I've kind of actually created a separate persona for like who's in our community and active versus who's like our overall players. So that kind of helps.
Good stuff. Before we move on, we have one more, if I can find it quickly. Hopefully I can. It is about making the communities accessible. And that was another Mako question. So thank you, Mako. Mako is a very popular player in very active players in one of our Discords. And they ask, how do you make sure that communities are accessible to new players? So again, it goes to your point that maybe a certain digital platform might not be for the everyday player, but if that everyday, somewhat casual player stumbles onto a place where there are a bunch of the hardcore players, how do you make sure that those people feel welcome?
Well, I can say like one of the things that we've done on the Until You Fall Discord server is we implemented the idea of like trainee and mentor roles. So we do monthly challenges, and one of the monthly challenges was to we were seeing a bunch of new people. So I was like, okay, like, hey, like all of you really like veteran players, like you guys are gonna take one of the new players under your wing and then help them to beat the level that they're like a level of difficulty that they're currently struggling with, or at least like reaching the end boss. And that challenge went over really well. And we saw a lot of like, discussion and people pairing up and new people talking and bringing, like getting engaged. And so I just was like, okay, we'll just keep it. Like, that's not going to be like even after the challenge, like, here we go. And so now like, when you enter Discord, like you can see who are the people who are there and they know what they're talking about, and who are the people who are like, putting it out there that they want to learn and then they want to get better. So I think that is kind of like a fun way to keep it kind of accessible, but just, kind of really like allowing players to highlight that they are newer or that they are less experienced to the community or in the community, and are looking for a way in, because it can be really intimidating when you get in and you just see the same people talking all the time. So I think having an avenue or like a reason, I guess, to signal like, hey, like I'm new, but I want to learn. Like, I think that's an interesting way to stay accessible.
Yeah, I like that a lot. For us, it's really just about surfacing our different socials and surfacing our different communities as much as possible in game. So like we have a we have a selfie camera, and if you take a photo with the selfie camera, you get a prompt and you can post it straight to Discord, which honestly just solves for the fact that it's really hard to get photos off of your headset. I mean, it's getting better now, but even with the sync that like Quest has, it's still a little bit like I have to actually sync it. So in terms of like just being able to post it right to Discord, that's been, I would say it's helpful in growing on our Discord, but the flip side is also we've gotten feedback where people are like, I don't know what Discord is. Like, is there somewhere else I can post this? So we're working on doing that too. But I really like the idea of highlighting new players. And I actually have a follow-up to you on that is that something that someone opts into, or you are just flagging and saying like, oh, this person's new to the Discord?
Yeah, no, it's definitely self-assigned. So you can go, because I mean, there are definitely people who come up and like we've had players who, they're brand new to the Discord and then they share some, they win a tournament. So like that has definitely happened. So, Mako, who asked the question, was actually one of those kind of like, she came out of nowhere and then just like, bam, in the finals. So, so it's self-assigned to kind of allow people who want to just lurk, like they can have that and they can have that privacy. But then also if you want to really put out there that like you're looking to learn, like you can self-assign that role, and then your name changes colors, you got that role assigned to you. You can be tagged in those posts, like, so it's flagging your account as like, hey, like help me.
I might steal that.
Because
we definitely do it the other way, which is the aspect of the people who are pros, pros. So we highlight, if, for example, in bowl, there is that, I say pro because there's an actual, like, there is a pro bowler, which is you have a 200 score average in the last 10 games or above. And then there's like pros who are like, I know this game really well. And then, so we highlight and flag, for example, achievements. So like if you've bowled a perfect game, or if you have like if you've hit pro level, for example, we celebrate that with levels. And we've actually one of the things that we're working towards in the next year is actually putting badging on players in games. So in multiplayer, you could see like, oh, this is like almost like an ask me about Forever Bowl button, where it's like, like ask me about Forever Games sort of thing, or like actually badging and saying like this person is brand new or is an expert. But I never really kind of considered it from the aspect of like, someone might be new and might be like, I'm not going to necessarily seek out things on my own, but if I'm tagged in a post that says, hey, we're looking for new players, like then I might engage. So I actually really like that. I learned something today.
Yay, happy to help.
I know AtomBombBody with Live, that could be, something really, I don't want to say challenging, but it could be interesting for those new content creators. It's like, okay, what do I do here? How do you make sure that the Live community is accessible for those new content creators?
I try to make sure that everyone knows there's no such thing as a stupid question, because I think some people worry that like, oh, the Discord is just gonna be full of like really experienced people that know what they're doing. But no, that, everyone's there to learn or improve. So especially if it's like, I don't want to call it a stupid, but if it's a simpler question, I'm more than happy to answer them because it makes me feel super smart. I don't have to be like, this is a really weird specific question. I don't have to go to the devs and be like, I've never heard of this. Like, do you know what this is? I can answer it. And then I'm like, yeah, all right. I did my job. Yeah. So, and it makes me happy to see people, diving into wanting to make content around VR. So anything that I can do to, help them get over whatever their particular issue might be, is a win. And, even more so if it's something that the community can answer and help out with, and especially in a positive way. I try to also make sure like, hey, we do have like some dedicated, long-term kind of like creators that have been with us for a while that are really experienced. So they're like, somehow they're every day, man, I don't know what we would do without them sometimes. It's like, it's nice that we can actually have breaks occasionally, knowing that they have our backs too. We're super appreciative for them. Yeah. And it's sometimes I'll see the conversations that they have with people and I'm like, wow, I never would have thought of, oh, it's this weird Windows bug or this weird other technological thing that really has nothing to do with VR that's interfering with VR somehow. And I'm like, I don't know how you would have thought of that, but thank God for you, man. But yeah, it's just making sure people know that, we all start from nothing pretty much. So to even go out there and join a Discord and ask a question is brave on its own. And we want to make sure we reward that and hopefully, provide an answer or at least, let you know that you were heard.
Good stuff. Man, with this past, we've been on for an hour already, which is crazy.
No.
So we did almost nothing of the outline I provided, which is totally fine. Well, like we talked about, we want to make sure that this is good for the community, and the community had questions that I did not anticipate. So thank you, community, for bringing that up. So I do want to end with that final question. What is the one thing you've learned about community management that you wish that you knew when you started? And then we have announcements from everybody, so please stay tuned until after the questions, and then we can finish wrapping up. So what was one thing you learned about community management that you wish you knew when you started? Let's go with, I think AtomBombBody was the last one to talk, so I'll go with you.
Oh boy. I would say I know, right? I guess the one thing is that realizing, we say community, but it's full of individual people. So I think remembering that, and I guess the other side too, like, hey, remember when you make those angry tweets, there's an actual person behind the tweets that reads these. But when, you get your any responses on Discord, even though we are all online, is remembering that there's an individual behind each username, that they may have, something going on behind the scenes that we don't know about that maybe led them to that slightly passive aggressive comment, or even the really nice ones, just making sure that we are genuinely appreciative. And I guess that's not something that I didn't know beforehand, but it's something that I couldn't really appreciate until I could be behind this position and actually see, how all the cogs work. So I don't know. I don't know if that's a really great answer, but I'm just really appreciative. I don't know.
I'll take it. All right, go ahead, Adam.
I second. This is a very hard question. I think
you had an hour to think about it, guys.
We've been talking the whole time.
Yeah.
My cat's yelling at me outside. It's very stressful.
Oh my god.
Okay, so I would say the one thing that I wish I learned about community management before I started, or I wish I knew about it before I started. I guess I guess I'll go with like a more silly answer, that I wish I wouldn't underestimate the community. There are certain challenges that I had that I expected much more tame submissions. For example, I did a challenge where they had to consecutively dodge attacks without attacking or being attacked in between. And I was expecting like 5-minute videos of, 20 dodge, squats, and got back multiple submissions that were over an hour, and one that was over 3 hours with over like 5,000 squats. So, yeah, I think that would probably be the thing. Like, don't underestimate your players. People are committed in unhealthy ways, so don't take advantage of that.
Squats seem healthy.
Well, yeah, maybe.
Until the next day.
Yeah, I don't know if she could walk afterwards. I didn't ask.
Until Dom sets in, and that's not fun. Yeah. All right, go ahead, Lauren.
Oh, I thought you'd just forget about me. No. So in
I don't think so, my friend.
Said no one ever.
Yeah.
No. For I would say honestly the biggest thing for me in terms of like what I've learned from the community is kind of one is the piece that I spoke to earlier, which is really how to manage how you weight that community feedback versus data that you're seeing versus whatever in terms of that kind of aspect of someone's super engaged already. So like, how does their feedback, you know, align with someone who's not engaged at all, but still plays the game a lot? Like that sort of thing is something that it's kind of a nuance, and it's something that you kind of have to learn what fits best with both your community and also the team in general. But the other thing is like, and this is something, you know, to end it on like a, you know, a nice, you know, kind of bow shiny note is, the people that are in our community, like even when they're frustrated, like they've made the effort to communicate with us. So that's something that I think we, you know, when you're seeing feedback or you're seeing a tweet or you're seeing whatever, like, yeah, so there's definitely going to be trolls. There's definitely going to be people who are just saying stuff to get a rise out of you. And you have to kind of manage that. But the flip side is also like the people that are in your community, like they took a moment out of their life to join your community. So sure, they own your game. Sure, they're playing your game. And like, not to devalue that in any way, like they're also, you have to kind of take into consideration that like, if someone is that engaged to come in and give you feedback or even complain about something, like you've already put this kind of like, there's already such like a level of engagement and intention in what they're doing that like, it's, I don't know, there's so much value in that. Like, even though like sometimes it's not what we want to hear. And a lot of times it's something where you're just like, as a dev or as the dev or as, you know, community, you're like, yep, I know this is a problem. There's nothing I can do about it. So that can be really frustrating. But I would say just taking that and like taking each piece of feedback, like kind of through that lens is helpful, because it also, you know, you kind of think about it as like, oh, you know, if this is one person complaining about it, you know, depending on the context, there could be, you know, like if one person reports a bug, there's at least 10 other players who've experienced that bug and just didn't make the effort to reach out, or just refunded your game, or just quit the game and like never played it again. So that's the sort of thing where like, you know, you have to kind of take that like really aggressive or like comments or whatever. You have to take it with a lens of like what's valuable, but then also just be kind of thankful for the fact that someone even spent the, you know, the effort in our, you know, in our fleeting existence to literally message you about this. Sometimes, sure, you're like, okay, like calm down. But most of the time it can be super helpful. Like, I mean, everybody gets trolls. Like we always get like, you know, we always get comments about stuff and or responses on stuff. And you're like, yeah, okay, I get it. Like at the end of the day, it's a bowling VR game. Like, I'm sorry that you can't fly. Like, there's nothing I can do about that. People don't fly in bowling. So like that sort of thing, you know, you just, some of the stuff you just can't affect. And sometimes people are just doing it to be annoying. But, you know, at the end of the day, they did waste or spend, depending on how you want to look at it, time out of their day to reach out and say that. So
Engagement.
It's kind of a, you know, it's a nice little.
Well, I think that
That's
it can
my
also
bow.
be applied positively too. Like people took
Yes.
a minute out of their day to share
Absolutely.
a compliment or you
Yes.
know positive feedback. So and that
That,
should
I mean,
be,
that happens
yeah.
much more often, right? It's definitely
yeah,
the you're doing
absolutely.
great that we get.
Absolutely. Very cool. Well, cool. Well, Lauren, and I have you starting with this in our wrap up. So, tell us what's going on with you and your team and where we can find you.
Yes. So we are at ForeVR Games. I know we spelled it weird. We know. We're aware. It's ForeVR Games, and we're at ForeVR Games everywhere. I'm at Lauren Corrine, LaurenCorrene on all of my socials. And then in terms of kind of what's going on with ForeVR Games, one, I'm hiring a community manager. I think I like subtly threw that in, and then yep. So I'm hiring a community manager. So I probably will judge any potential applicants as to whether or not they've watched this video. And then also, I mean, honestly, like you should probably know about the community if you're interviewing, right? Like, anyways. But that being said, also we have darts launching tomorrow, which is epic and really exciting. We've got some kind of fun. I won't go into detail because we kind of want it to be a surprise, but we have some kind of mechanics in place that will celebrate people who own multiple games and really kind of give them an exclusive kind of fun experience. So that's going to be really exciting just to kind of see the feedback from our community who is already a Forever Bowl player, what they think of darts, and then just, you know, bringing in a new audience with darts. We've got a kind of a niche or interesting mechanic, which is the hand tracking. So I'm really excited to see kind of how that changes our communities. So I'm super excited about that. So that's kind of my spiel is darts coming soon, and also I'm hiring.
There you go. All right, thank you. AtomBombBody, what's up?
Yeah, so for me personally, I guess you can find me pretty much AtomBombBody on everything. I'm on Twitter, YouTube. I don't really stream on Twitch anymore, but you're rather welcome to just ooh and on, look at the page or whatever. As far as live, yeah, we are discord.gg/live. We're also live, that's LIV on Twitter, but on TikTok, we are powered by live because somebody else had hijacked the name because it's very common. We get a lot of angry Olivias coming after us quite often.
Angry
I
Olivia.
love that.
Yes, yeah, that's so I haven't been on Instagram because our DMs are just full of Olivia's trying to buy the name from us. But otherwise, yeah, we get people joining the server asking if it's a server for Olivia's. And I'm like, no, honey, I'm sorry, it's not.
Oh, that's
I mean, just
great.
say yes. I feel like that's an untapped market.
Yeah, it's like, Olivia, we've been waiting for you.
Live
It's
powered
you!
by Olivia's.
But besides all the socials, some cool things we're working on. We're doing a lot of avatar updates so that just really cool stuff, working on a lot of UI improvements. Started to do content creator campaigns. So we're working with a lot of other game developers who may want to take advantage of some of the big creator lists that we've curated to help promote their game or whatnot. Working with a lot of exciting games and just getting our SDK and a bunch of other integrations and stuff in. So yeah, a lot of cool stuff. Just follow us on socials to see what other crazy experiments we end up trying out.
And Adam, what do we got going on?
All right. Well, obviously, you can follow Schell Games on Twitter, Facebook. We've got LinkedIn. We're on Instagram. We've got multiple Discords for I Expect You to Die and Until You Fall, which also have their own social channels like Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and things. You can check out this video on YouTube and a VOD and all of our other Dinner with the Devs from previous months. And this was the last of the year, but there's going to be many more. And then, yeah, we did just recently announce our involvement with Among Us VR. So go give it that. Twitter.
Kind of a big deal.
Yeah, just a little bit. Just a tiny smidgen.
I look forward to the follow-up Dinner with Devs about presence and moderating presence in VR that will you guys will get to experience with Among Us. Because I cannot imagine someone coming at me and calling me sus. That sounds like a fun thing you guys are going to solve for.
That's right. Yeah. To be determined. Right. Yeah.
I'm sure there will be a Dinner with the Devs all about Among Us VR down the line, but stay tuned.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, in the meantime, follow the Among Us VR Twitter. You can find me personally on social. I am either Kuta Kuma or the real Kuta Kuma on anywhere. And it's another one of those things that they stole the name from me.
See, I'm the fake Kuta Kuma. So
yeah, there you go.
Gotta pay $1,000 to get the social media account.
I'm so angry. The person who has Kuta Kuma on Twitter hasn't used it in like 8 years, and I'm like, oh, give it to me. But it's fine. It's fine. I'll be one of the angry Olivias honorarily.
Yeah.
Oh,
and then
we're not even an Olivia.
That's our indie band. Yeah. Our indie band after this is the Angry Olivias.
The Angry Olivias.
Single is launching in 2022.
That's it, coming to you. Yeah.
Yep, so that's on our roster. And then yes, Lost Recipes. We announced a new game. So I don't. Yeah, there's a link. There's a link.
It's a thing.
And it's this in 2022. And check out the link that's in the chat. Thanks, Jill.
All right. Well, thank you all so much. It was a wonderful conversation. So AtomBombBody, Adam, Lauren, thank you so much for joining us. The live chat, man, was hype the entire time. So thank you all for participating. I know we didn't get a chance to talk about I Expect You to Die in the series and what might be or might not be coming later. So there's time for us to talk about that. But stay tuned. So make sure that you subscribe and make sure you enable your notifications so you see what videos are constantly popping up with game trailers, dinner with the devs, other exciting things that we have planned for our YouTube channel in 2022. A lot of fun stuff going on there that Jill's still allowing me to do. And so in January, stay tuned. We have another dinner with the devs coming at the end of the month. I think it's the 26th, 27th, somewhere. Last Wednesday in January. We'll be on whatever that date is. Thank you for tuning in today. Panelists, please just stay on for a couple of minutes after I end the stream. Bye-bye, everyone.